Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today, we have a special guest. We have Jennifer Kurtz, who is a small business branding expert out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, where she focuses on helping small businesses clarify their vision and turning into something visual. And on top of that, she loves running, yoga, ice cream, and her English Bulldog Penelope. What an interesting name for a bulldog. So we'll learn more about all of that. So let's give a warm welcome to Jennifer. So Jennifer, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, definitely. So how in the world did you get into the whole world of business branding, as you've had quite the journey to get there?
I did. So I started out in doing engineering, and which is completely different than branding, and kind of a roundabout way found my way through it. I worked in engineering for a while and realized that it just wasn't my forte, and I knew I wanted to do something different. And so I took a part-time job at a nonprofit, and they needed somebody to plan their half marathon, which was like 6 months down the road. And I knew the guys that had started it, and so they knew that I would be a good fit for what they needed to get done. And I was the only employee at the nonprofit, so I was, like, everything was me. Besides, like, planning the race, I needed to figure out how to market it and all that kind of stuff. And throughout that process, realized that I kind of had a knack for it, and it really came naturally to me. And I have always been creative, as being in yearbook in high school and designing T-shirts for the sorority, and but really kind of realized that I was good at it and I liked it, and it was something that I wanted to pursue.
So what was it that really made you decide that engineering wasn't for you? Because you invested a lot of energy and time into that.
I did. Well, I think more than anything, I loved the challenge of engineering. I loved the thought process behind it, the very strategic, analytical, but I didn't necessarily like the way it was applied. Math and science, while I was good at it, it wasn't something that I enjoyed. Calculus was not my favorite subject. I needed a way to, like, release this creativity. Like, it felt like it was built up, and I needed some way to, like, let it go. And engineering was not the way to do that at all.
Right, as there's limitations to how you can express yourself with engineering, typically. If you're designing something and it's just this one thing that you're working on, and that's it. It's not like, well, I want to do it this way. No, you're doing it the way that it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. And what I experienced in engineering, I worked at a company that made like computer devices. And so a lot of what my job was testing it. And so I would get this device, and so it's kind of like similar. Think about a cell phone. And so I would power on the cell phone and change the brightness setting to medium and reboot it and see if it kept it and make sure it worked. And then I would change the brightness setting to high and reboot it and see if it worked. And then I would change it to low. So if you can think about doing that for 40 hours a week every single day, and when you're a creative person, that just does not work at all.
That's torture for anybody.
Yeah, it was torture. It was not my favorite thing.
No, I can imagine how challenging that had to be. Is you spend all the energy to learn engineering through school, and then you're essentially testing a device to see if it works.
Yes, it was not what I had pictured at all, and I don't really quite fit like the engineering molds. I like to talk to people a little bit more, or like the stereotype. I don't fit the engineering stereotype. So
right.
Sitting at a desk and looking at a computer all day was, some people are really good at that, and I am not.
Right, that's something that not everybody can do. You have to have a special knack to be able to sit at a computer nonstop. If you love to be around people, you need to be able to embrace that and get out there and talk to people wherever you can.
Right. But I'm really happy actually that I studied engineering. I think I learned a lot from, more than anything, I think I learned like how to figure things out. Like, it's a great degree just in general to get for problem solving.
Indeed, because that's what you're doing. You're solving problems.
Yeah. And so if you come at a problem thinking about that there is an answer and you just have to find it and you learn the thought process through how to do that, it's incredibly valuable.
Right, exactly. So once you embrace this new world of marketing and branding, what was it that you had to do to make that complete shift? Because you developed a new skill set then at that point, because if you looked at your life, it was all about engineering, and suddenly you get to be creative, like, oh, go here, figure this out, have fun with it. What was it like?
It was, I listened to as many podcasts and watched so many videos and worked through tons of worksheets. And at least whenever I first started at the nonprofit, it was just a game of like, all right, how much can I learn from all these different people and put it all together and figure out like what's going to work. And so I tried to like absorb just as much information as I could. And then also while I was reading it, I was like, well, like I kind of already knew this, which I think reinforced my like thought that I could do this and maybe like innately would be good at it. I'm personally super empathetic, which makes it's a really good quality for marketing if you understand how people feel and how they're going to react to something. And so tied with that and joining also with my engineering strategic, let's plan out all these Instagram posts and Facebook posts and have them coordinate, and all of that brought together, I think is what a lot of businesses struggle with as far as branding is concerned.
I think that's a struggle with most people, because when you think about just creating content or curating it, there's that big question like, well, what do I say? What are people going to find interesting? How do you get past that? Because I think that's a sticking point just where people across the board, like, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. So I think I try to approach that as the same thing when I'm like designing logos for people. So I like to tell people with logo design, like association is everything. And you can kind of get down a tangent as far as like a marketing company that I'm familiar with, their logo kind of looks like a light bulb, but their name, the first letter of their logo kind of fits into it. So it's like their letter looks like the light bulb, which in a light bulb would make sense for a marketing company if you're just making up ideas all day that is going to sell products.
Right.
And so if you create content that is all associated, even kind of loosely, it'll fit together. So if you think about who your target audience is and what their problem is, then it's really easy to come up with, all right, website design is a huge problem for all of these people and they don't know what to do. You can go into, well, Squarespace or WordPress, or who is going to host, what plugins do you need, what's the best way to measure your growth. There's so many things under that umbrella that if you draw all these loosely associated lines, that you have a ton of content all of a sudden and don't know what to do with all of it.
Right. Oh, definitely. It doesn't take much, but when you start peeling back the layers, asking yourself questions, what does it, the people I'm working, what do they need the most?
Right, exactly. And I think asking why is a really good way to connect with your audience, because if you ask yourself why and why it matters to them, and sometimes it might not. Sometimes if you're being honest with yourself, this might not really matter, but it'll lead you to something that does. So right. You can have the most profound impact on your audience.
Right. Oh, definitely. And you want to have that impact. That's something that's just a must in today's world.
Yes, absolutely. So if you really know your target audience and their pain points, then you're like good to go.
Right. So then in terms of pain points, what is it that people should be looking at to figure that out? Because some people might be thinking pain points. Are you talking like if I stub my toe?
I think I would have told my clients we work through the very first part of branding is not anything that like looks really pretty or is necessarily super fun, but it is really targeting what you're doing, your why, and who your target audience is and what you're trying to tell them.
Okay.
And once you really understand who you are and who you're targeting, then all of a sudden it becomes this point of it's like really easy to be able to understand, well, I need to like really focus on this so I can give these people what's going to help them the most.
Right, exactly. You have to be able to give them exactly what they need versus just something that might make them happy for a little while.
Right. It is like the ultimate test of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and understanding what they're going through, and so you can help them.
Right. And you have to do that because otherwise you end up with a disconnected type of marketing, because you see that frequently out there where a brand will have a message you're wondering, what does that have to do with their brand?
Yes, absolutely. And I think like the Super Bowl yesterday was a great example of some fabulous marketing. I don't know if you saw the Mr. Clean commercial. I thought it was hilarious. But it basically has this premise that women are the ones that are always doing the cleaning. And so they have Mr. Clean like dancing around, and the wife is like all into it, and all of a sudden Mr. Clean like turns into her husband, and it's really, really funny. And but also kind of addresses maybe a little what I would call pain point where women are the ones doing a lot of the cleaning.
Right. And I think if you look at just the Super Bowl commercials in general, it brings up something which is important, and that's that concept of ad blindness. Because you think about every year, people look forward to the commercials with the Super Bowl. Like, oh, they're great, they're funny. But after about a week or so, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
They lose that specialness, that uniqueness that makes them stand out. They're just like any other commercial at that point.
Why do you think that?
Well, if you look at the amount of ads that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, that we're always seeing something different. And many times we're seeing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that in today's world, it's kind of like, all right, well, that's it. Versus if you're to look at, let's say, when commercials were aired years ago, like, let's say before you had the internet all over the place, the only place you would see that commercial was on TV, and that was it. So its shelf life would be a little bit longer. But now you'll see that same commercial if you're watching a YouTube video. You might see people share it on Facebook, on Twitter, you name it. So it doesn't last as long because that ad blindness time frame has been compressed.
Right, which it's marketing shelf life. It's definitely very fast paced. You gotta move with the times, and that's why it's maybe also so important to create that one ad that is very impactful. But right. You have seen people or companies create campaigns that have lasted years. If you think about, Coca-Cola with the polar bears, how many years have they been doing that and somehow continue to create some really great ads using polar bears?
Right. Well, if you look at some things like that, it's a matter that they've taken a concept and then it becomes a tradition. So you start thinking of the holidays, you think, oh, I wonder what the polar bears are going to do this year. So it's something that you look forward to because they create this narrative around it versus it just being this one and done type thing. So you can add seasonality to something and then you can use that same concept, but you just update it year to year. So that way it's a little bit different. But where businesses tend to falter at is they don't make changes. They want to use the same exact ad consistently. And then they're wondering, well, how come it's no longer effective? Well, it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Or if you have characters and you're telling a story, you have to think about it as a new chapter. If you're watching a TV series, if you're watching just one episode over and over again, after a while, you're not going to want to watch it, but you look forward to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you said that. If you think about characters telling a story, and that you are so right about that, it exactly is telling a story about who you are and what you stand for. You know, I think using Coca-Cola again as the example, they're all about inclusiveness and spreading, I don't know, joy through the holidays. And I really think you feel that, especially in their Christmas polar bear ads, you know?
Oh, definitely. It's just something that it's there. You're wondering, oh, I wonder what they're going to do. It's really fascinating. And now, of course, you compare this with other brands, and you start thinking, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. That you don't have as many iconic type of commercials out there with different brands that have something that's a staple.
I think people that can generate those out-of-the-box ideas almost kind of know what they're worth now, and so it's very hard to get such an awesome ad made because it's going to cost you some money, you know?
Well, that's the beauty of today's world, that an ad today, it doesn't have to be something this large scale as, you know, the polar bears with Coca-Cola. Because if you think about the Super Bowl, the millions of dollars that a company spends just to air it, in addition to the production cost. So they could easily be spending $10 million on an ad. Just because of the placement, you know, that it's going to be running a couple times and so on. But if you look at today's advertising world, we live in an age where the playing field has been leveled dramatically. So now that local business owner, they can be able to run ads on places such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, you name it, depending on where their audience is, and create something that's relevant to their exact audience. Because, you know, if you think about it, a small business, that local business, doesn't need to have the gargantuan effect of the polar bears. Like, yes, we want to make millions of people thirsty for Coca-Cola, when in reality, they just need to, let's say, get in front of a handful of people every single day to come and use their business.
Right. You're exactly right. But it also, they still have to understand what makes them different than everyone else and why those people should come to them versus the other small businesses that are doing the same thing. If you truly understand how you're different and you can connect with people, you'll be a lot more successful. It's all about making people feel like they want to choose you. Branding, in my opinion, is all about feeling. And the people or the businesses that know that and can share that are the ones that do the best. Small business or large.
Right. And you have to do that. It's a critical thing that you can get someone to feel, because when you look at it, people buy based on their emotions, how they feel. No matter how logical you want to think about something, it's that gut instinct, how you feel at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite TED Talks is, I think it's called Start With Why. It's Simon Sinek. It's wonderful. One of the greatest TED Talks I think I've ever seen.
Oh, yes, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm. And he walks through, I think his example in it is Apple and how their marketing campaign and how they've been so successful is you start with the why about your business and then the who and then the what.
Right, exactly. Because if you look at a company like Apple, and you know, some people may wonder, well, why are they priced a certain way? Why do they only have so many, I guess, a limited amount of products? And it all goes back to their why about creating that experience for someone, so they don't have to have a gazillion and one different phones or computers. It's you want a phone. Nowadays, it's do you want the regular size or do you want the larger size? That's it.
Yep. And so Apple's all about innovation, and they do that through computers and phones, through technology. And
right.
It's all about your experience using it.
Right, and you see that's the other thing. It's if you look at it, it's everything they do. It's always focused on experience, because you look at some of the things, they might not always be the first one to market with something, but when they do put it out there, they figure out how to make it a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
if you think about other brands out there, if someone, let's say they have a different phone, if they wanted to upload their contacts or access their contacts on their computer, you have to go through several steps. But if you have an iPhone or an iMac, you just open it up and it's right there. So everything's seamless.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that for people is more powerful.
Oh, have you ever tried to do that? It's absolutely powerful. I guess the reason
Oh,
I have
yes.
all Apple stuff, you know? Well, and there's some technology isn't easy for a lot of people. So when you create something that's seamless like that, people are going to come to it in droves.
Right, exactly. And that's what people have to look at in their business is how can you make it easy for someone to say yes to you versus making it difficult?
Absolutely. Well, and added into that feeling factor, you're you're going to have a hugely successful business if whenever I say Disney, you feel something, you know?
Right. How can you not feel something with Disney?
Yeah, exactly. And I would argue that Apple is the same way.
Right. Although I like to jokingly say if you're going to Disney World, one thing you're going to be feeling is your wallet getting smaller.
There is no doubt about that.
Right, exactly.
But what little kid doesn't want to go, you know? And parents are into it's like I don't know, given a disservice to your child if they've never been to Disney World.
Right. Like you must go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is not necessarily true at all, but it's created this feeling that like everyone else does it, you know? It's a rite of passage almost to go to Disney World.
Right, exactly. There are so many things in marketing that it's all about the messaging and then how things can have an impact when you look at something. I think it's if you think about the true impact that you can have, you have to look at different things throughout history. Here's a great example. If you think about, are you familiar with the company De Beers?
No, I'm not.
Well, is in terms of a company they do with diamonds, a jewelry company, and they came out with a campaign back, in the early part of last century, is because they wanted to sell more diamonds. So they created this concept of the engagement ring, and that you had to spend, a certain amount of money on it that shows someone how much you care by getting the engagement ring. And then in terms of like the wedding ring itself, you should spend at least a month's salary. All these things came from these marketing campaigns. So before that, it didn't exist. So they developed this and pushed it out there. So now you have pretty much everybody buying more diamonds because
Now that
they
you
wanted
say
people
that,
to
I
buy
feel
that.
like I have heard this story. I just didn't know the name of the company that, like, I don't know, brought it to life. But I have heard this before. It's incredibly interesting. And also how many, like, all of Americans have bought into it.
Right. Exactly. So when you think about marketing, it's that influence. How can you influence people day in and day out to choose you, to choose something, and they think like, I must do this.
Yep, you're right. And I think it comes down to knowing who you are and what you have to offer, and then making people feel like it's something they want to be a part of.
Right. And that is the most important thing if you look at it. People want to be a part of something. It's not like, oh, well, there's just that, the thing that's over there. We don't want to watch that. It's people love to be part of a community, that sense of belonging. So if you're able to tap into it, it's that much more powerful.
And I think that's one of the reasons Facebook was so successful, especially in the beginning, was whenever it first came out, you had to have a school email address to sign up for it. You had to have a .edu email address, which limited to who could sign up for it. Like it was part of a clique if you were in it. And then after that, you had to have an invitation from someone to click through to be able to sign up for it.
Right.
And it wasn't always this, like, whoever wants to sign up can. It was this very specific, okay, you can be a part of this club.
Right. And the biggest thing, if you look at it, they made it easy for people to use and made it easy for someone to have a great experience on it.
Yes, absolutely. A user experience is a huge part of branding and marketing. And if things are too difficult, people are going to give up,
Right. And that's the thing. You have to look at how you can constantly innovate and make that experience great for somebody. But you think about companies such as MySpace, that before Facebook took off, everybody was on MySpace. Then because of how Facebook was easy to use, and it's things just naturally flowed through it, people gravitated towards it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think Walmart has also, I think last week they came out with their version of the Amazon Prime where you don't have to have a membership fee anymore, which I think is it's going to be a game changer for Amazon, I think.
Oh yes. It's all a matter of when you look at something like Walmart doing that, the big thing that they have is their retail stores all over the place. So if you really want something now, like, oh, look, you can go get it anytime you want, and you don't have to wait on the lines. Just go over here and pick it up. They can make it a seamless process.
Yes, absolutely. I actually live where Walmart headquarters is, and which is hard to believe it's in small town Arkansas, but it is. And, they do a lot of like testing, like one-offs here, which is really great to kind of be able to see like what they're up to. And they're doing grocery pickup, and it is the most wonderful thing I've ever experienced. You pick out your groceries online, you tell them what time you want to pick it up, and they give you like a 2-hour window to show up. And you pull up to the thing, you tell them that you're there, they load your groceries in your car, and you're off. It takes like 10 minutes tops.
Wow.
It's awesome.
That's amazing, because if you think about, and this is where it's really important to understand with ideas in terms of marketing and business, that some things it's a matter of timing, that something might not work today, but it doesn't mean it will never work. It just might mean this is not the right time for it. You think of the company like that service the Walmart's testing out to Amazon Fresh, where they're going to deliver groceries. This is not the first version of it. It was first done back in around 2000 with a company called Net Grocer. But at that time, the problem was people were still hesitant about shopping online because it was this new concept. Amazon was just in its beginning. People thought, but my credit card, it might not be safe if I buy things online. So it never really took off. But now you look at it as you're like, this is amazing. It saves me so much time. I don't have to go to all these places. I just pick all the stuff and then it shows up.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so many things happen in cycles. Even if you look at like fashion, like the 90s are coming back into style right now. You know, things, it's all a cycle. Cameras are a great example. We had Polaroids, and then we had those big cameras that you slung over your shoulder and you carried everywhere with you. And then it kind of graduated down to the tiny little digital cameras that could fit back in your pocket. And now photography is becoming a bigger thing, and people want like the nicer, bigger cameras now. So you go from this old film development, big cameras, down to the tiny little digital camera, but the tiny little digital cameras aren't cool anymore.
Right.
But now we're going back in the opposite direction. You want the film, the actual thing, you know?
Right. The difference when you think about it, though, is that it's now people, they want your larger, your DSLR cameras, because they want to be able to do a multitude of things, use different lenses and create different visual effects. But the market of cameras that is essentially evaporated, where it doesn't exist for the most part, it's your little pocket cameras. Because the quality of the images, for the most part, you can do all of that with the cameras in your phone at this point.
Yes.
So people don't say, well, why do I want to carry a little small camera that does the same thing as my phone? So now they're looking at it. They want that larger camera, so when they go on a vacation somewhere, they can take the amazing images that they can't get on their phone.
Well, and it's just a great way to be able to think ahead, is to look back and go ahead and say, well, you know, is there anything that we used in the past that is more beneficial than what we're using now? And in just in one way or two, you know?
Right, exactly. I think at the end of the day, you have to look at human behavior. How do people do things consistently? And one of those ways, if you look at it in terms of how people behave, are through communities. That people have always wanted to congregate together And if you look at a platform like Facebook, what do they have? Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
And people gravitate toward them because they want to be part of a community with a shared interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very true. And I think, like, using Apple as an example again, they still made you feel like you were a part of the group if you had an Apple phone or a computer, you know? Like, so it wasn't like the necessary, like, group, but you were kind of in the group, at least at first, if you had one.
Oh, right, exactly. You're special that way. Like, look, I have one. Oh,
Yes.
you too?
Mm-hmm.
And now you have the instant bond.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some people nowadays, they have the phones like, oh, so did yours catch on fire yet? And,
Let's hope not.
right. Like, yeah, that's just the club that I don't think very many people truly want to be a part of.
No, no, no.
At least I hope not.
Oh, I know. I hope not too. At least don't bring that phone on a plane with me.
Well, of course, these days you can't, as they announce at the beginning of the flight. If you're carrying one of these phones, you can't have it. It's prohibited.
Do they really? I haven't flown
Yes.
since this whole phone blowing up thing happened.
They did. I thought, wow, that's pretty scary if they tell you, like, if you have this phone, sorry, get it off this plane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's not good.
No, definitely not. There's some things you don't want to be known for. And in that particular case, that's a PR nightmare because the next phone they come out with, they have to really convince people this is not going to catch on fire to get over the last one.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I went to school at the University of Arkansas when the whole Petrino scandal happened. We had to replace our football coach, and I don't know. I worked for the university at the time, and so, you know, they brought us in for the meeting, told us what was happening, and they were like, very serious. They go, do not be Googleable for the wrong reasons. And I was like, that could be applied in a lot of different scenarios, but very wise advice.
Oh, yes. That's what I think people don't necessarily understand in today's world is that anything that you put online, it's there. It's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to choose carefully.
I try to tell my little sister that all the time. She is young enough that she has never, like, not known the internet. And I'm like, really trying to explain it to her.
The age of innocence, like, oh, you don't know the struggles of dial-up.
Yeah. No, yeah. She's not familiar with dial-up at all.
Like, okay, I'm going to download this. All right. It says 5 hours. I'll come back later. And
Yeah.
that was
No,
the
I
world
don't
we
even
lived in.
think she knows what, like, an Ethernet cable is. It's, like, always been seamless Wi-Fi. Like, no wires needed.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those little things that some people can't appreciate.
I know. And I think it'll be interesting to see where, like, in 5 years even, where we'll be, you know?
Well, things are constantly evolving, and that's the critical point about when you think about businesses, that we have to constantly look at how are things today. It's, for example, you look at websites, that the way websites were designed 5 years ago, the way they looked and operated is totally different than today.
Yes, absolutely.
There's this constant evolution, and if a business does not invest in that, they can quickly find themselves left out in the cold.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think at first, like when the internet first came out, just like being there was important, you know? If somebody could
Right.
look up online and see like your hours, that was really great. Like you got major points for that. But now it's like, all right, well, if I can't get to your hours easily, or if my user experience on your site, it takes too long to load, then I'm going to go somewhere else. So you're constantly like need to be making it easier and easier and easier for people to find the information that they need.
Right, exactly. It has to be easier for people to find you, but then also it's a matter of people being able to reach you in that simple fashion. Where in the past, just having, let's say, a contact form on your website for people to reach you that way, that was totally acceptable when no one even thought about it. But
Yeah.
nowadays, with the integration of Facebook Messenger, people would love to be able to message you on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Because this way they can feel like, oh wow, I have this response right away. That instead of we'll get back to you sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
And depending on the industry, that might be too late.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and Facebook will even tell you now, like, typically replies within 2 hours, you know? And so you know very well, like, when to expect a response.
Right, exactly. You have to do that. And one of the things that I find advantageous to use is at least giving people an instant gratification. Use a Facebook Messenger bot. And it's simply there just to give people that satisfaction that you've acknowledged them.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you go, oh, okay, well, someone's going to get back to me. And in the meantime, you can be able to give them information. So that way you can create more user engagement. But for the most part, for people, if you at least acknowledge that, that they've contacted you, that's more than enough. Because then if people know that, oh, okay, you can't get back right away, you're busy, I get it. But then if there's dead silence, well,
Yeah.
not so much.
Well, and it's very interesting. So, like, back to this whole cycle thing, prior to the internet, everything was based on relationships. And then we went to the internet and it's all virtual. But now you're having to put so much more intention on being relationship based, because it still is, but you're not face to face anymore. You have this like screen between you and you're still trying to figure out how to create that connection and build that relationship with your customers.
Right, exactly. It's always about the relationship, but at the same time, you have to build it strong enough so someone can't quickly come in. And I think that's where some people have to elevate what they're doing in business, because no matter how much you want to do business solely online, at some point you absolutely must pick up the phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
no doubt.
when you do that, now you've taken the relationship to a different level. It's no longer just this quasi-virtual relationship that someone's on the other side of the screen. You got to know them, like, oh, this person has a voice, they have a personality. So now it's more real, and you're not going to be as likely to say, no, I don't want to do business with this person anymore. Where if the person is just, a picture on your screen, you have no problems going to someone else.
Oh,
But
yeah,
once
absolutely.
it's a relationship, you're like, well, I do like them, so you'll keep using them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. It's one of the reasons whenever I meet with my clients, if we can't meet in person, I love using Skype, because it's still we're thousands of miles away, you still have that like face contact and can seeing people's mannerisms and body language is hugely telling,
Right. Oh, definitely. You have to be able to do that. Having that visual component makes it so much more realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now it sounds like you have a client base that's not in Arkansas.
Yes, yeah. I mean, a lot of people online through Facebook, small business owners that are in Facebook groups and need help with how to share their message in a concise and pretty way.
So now, how did you go about finding them? Because some people, they think about Facebook groups, like they just think of, let's say, the mommy groups, the garage sale groups, and so on. And like, really? You can use groups to grow a business?
Yeah, absolutely. There are small business owners, at least all over the States, and I've even met some people in Europe too, that, it's groups for business owners or bloggers or entrepreneurs that are seeking advice from other people that are doing the same thing, really.
And that's important. It's because you're able to build a relationship with them in there. Because, you think about showing up and they see that it's different because they can see that you care versus here's a one-off ad necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're also in the groups, it's kind of like, well, we're trying to do the same thing, so you're already connected on a basic level.
Right. Exactly. So when you started using Facebook groups, how long was it from the time that you decided, I'm going to use Facebook groups, to when you actually started generating clients from them?
Not long at all. I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I had been in them for a little bit and would comment my opinions on like, oh, this logo, try using like these colors if this is what you're going for, maybe make it a little more simplistic. But once I started actually trying to recruit clients from it, it didn't take long at all.
Oh, that's excellent. So when you were starting to recruit clients, how did you go about doing it? Did you see a post like, hey, I have a special deal today. You've got to take it. Or was it something a little less salesy?
Definitely less salesy. A lot of people ask. They're like, I'm understand that logo and design and branding is not my forte. I need somebody to help me. Is there anybody in here who does that for a living? And so I would respond to those posts, and we would set up a meeting, or they could look at the work that I've done in the past and get a feel for whether that would match what they were wanting to do.
Right. Okay. So then, in terms of groups, what were your criteria in terms of finding ones that were worth investing in? Because there's so many groups out there that you could spend days and days searching.
Mm-hmm. I went to look for people that were really I viewed as outstanding in the workplace, like Russell Branson. And so I would see who had liked his page, and if there were any groups in there that people, like 20 people were also a part of this group, I would consider joining that one. And I found a list online that kind of described a couple different groups, and I went and pulled them up on Facebook and kind of joined. And I have joined groups and been like, nah, this really just isn't I don't really feel like I'm connected with these people, like we're doing the same thing. And you can always leave a group,
Right. Oh, definitely. That's always the easy thing to do. It doesn't take much.
Mm-mm. But
most people think it's perfect. It's a permanent thing. You're in. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think just being a part of it for a little bit and just trying it out, you get to a feel for whether it's right for you or not.
Right. Oh, definitely. It's something you will get a feel for one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of those critical things.
Yeah.
So obviously you've leveraged Facebook groups. You position yourself that way. How is it that you keep a balance? Because some people, when they look at building their business online like this, because, we live in this world where sometimes you might have those days where the only conversation you might have outside of like via Skype or the phone is with your pet.
Yeah.
How do you,
I've experienced those days.
how do you keep that balance there so you could still be around people? Because it's the one thing that we miss out on being in the traditional workplace is not having that social environment right there.
Oh, yeah. There's a coffee shop that I'll go and work at, and there is a Mexican restaurant that I'll go and work at. And I know the employees at both. And so if I know I'm just going to be working on websites all day, when I'm going to be sitting down and really not talking to anybody, I've met with all the people I need to, and it's just going to be straight work, I'll go and sit at one of those just to be around people and talk. And so I'm not just sitting at home, And you create relationships with people there, and they'll ask what you're doing, and you tell them. And I've gotten a handful of clients that way also.
Right. Oh, definitely. I've done the same thing, building up those relationships, because you have to put yourself out there in multiple ways. So it's not just you're living in a bubble, because sometimes people think that that's the only thing you do. Like, no, you're more purposeful about how you spend your day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really do love, I try once a week at least for sure to get out and not work from home.
Well, and that's a great thing to be able to do, because it puts you into that position where you are out there, you're around people, so you can thrive off of it. Now, there's some people, they could probably go a month without ever talking to another human being and be perfectly fine with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it is just a matter of knowing what environment you are most productive in. But even for like the introverts out there, part of your business is relationship building. And I would say that I'm an introvert for the most part. I need alone time to recharge, but I can be social and create those relationships when I need to.
Right, exactly. If I'm the typical extrovert, but I don't have to be around people all the time. It's like I thrive on being around people. Like, yes, there's energy, and then when it's like, all right, I'm done because it's not exciting anymore. Like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. See, I know on Sunday mornings are my time to like walk my dog and sit and enjoy my coffee and I love the like early morning sunrise silence. And that's my time, and it recharges me for the week, and then I'm good to go.
Totally can understand that. Me, I wake up in the morning, it's like I have that burst of energy. I want to start listening to music and just start moving around like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then, of course, I realize, oh, wait, no one else is. So, even if I go to the gym first thing in the morning, the people that are there, they're not very social, like, don't talk to me. Like, okay, I'm just going to get my workout in. Like, no one's smiling. They're just going through the motions. Like, I'm here. Please, no one look at me because I'm here at 6:30 in the morning. So it's
working out at the gym, nonetheless.
Right, exactly. Like, I could have hit snooze, but I'm here. No one talked to me.
Yeah.
So it's definitely different. So as we wrap things up here, what is one thing you recommend every business owner, entrepreneur do to be able to grow and brand their business?
I recommend investing in yourself, really understanding who you are, what you have to offer, and why it makes you different. You understanding your why and how you are different than everyone else, you will be able to propel your business off of that. And if you don't have a full grasp of how to do that and what you stand for, you're going to struggle a lot more.
Oh, that's excellent. It's something that's so critical that is often overlooked is the one thing in life that can guarantee a return is investing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are a lot of workbooks out there, and I'm the same way as far as once I get an idea, I want to like go for it. I want to start this business. I want to be an entrepreneur, but really investing the time and the steps beforehand and understanding what you're doing, I think you will definitely get returns on the back end.
Oh, definitely. It makes a world of a difference. Well, I want to thank you for coming onto the Big Movement podcast today and sharing your wealth of wisdom. How can people learn more about you and reach out to you?
You can go to my website. It's www.jenniferkurtz.com, and there's a contact form, and all of that goes to my email, and you can see my work, and all my social media channels are linked to it, so I'd love for y'all to come and take a look.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you once again for coming on to the podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.